At the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, the GSMA spoke to three leading members of the European Parliament about the future of the mobile industry. This video features some of the highlights of those interviews.
The industry's changing quite fundamentally with the advent of the smartphone.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, and what does it mean for you as policymakers?
Well, I think first of all, it's great for the economy, and I meet people in my constituency who are working on new applications for smartphones, and it's going to keep growing. I think one of the interesting things here is that we're able to test out the near field communication technology, which has been around for a long time. Actually, I first saw it in Japan about 6 or 7 years ago. But that now finally seems to be moving into reality, and so moving towards smart payments and collecting smart information. These, I think, are the next stage of evolution, which we expect to move quickly. But the fundamental thing for Europe is that we have to get on top of this, because we were in America last summer with our European Internet Foundation group in Silicon Valley, and what's quite clear is that the centre of gravity of mobile innovation has actually moved from Europe to the States. I think that's quite clear. Now, I think that's worrying for Europe, so we really need to accelerate the rollout of 4G and then to 5G networks, and we really need to encourage this whole economy that's going to develop the smartphone applications, because I think we have great people in the European economy, but we need to make the European market work much better for people to invest in great pan-European applications.
Yeah, we've been hearing debates here about spectrum, and it's quite clear that we need to move quicker on that, but it seems to me that there is no excuse, if you've got this priority on jobs and growth, that you don't implement the decisions which have been taken on spectrum at 700 megahertz, and to be able to make sure we're going to be keeping up with the rest of the globe. Because if you're looking at Europe, where it used to be 20 years ago, we were well ahead. Now we see America, because it has one market, beginning to move very quickly, and you have undreamt of speeds in Korea, where we will be taking a delegation of parliamentarians over there after Easter. Hong Kong, China, Korea, with the specific thing of seeing how do governments manage to implement, to get speeds of 1,000 megabits per second, which seems to be totally out of this world for any European consumer to think of.
And what are your thoughts about how Europe's mobile industry and Europe's mobile services compare with those of the rest of the world? Are we keeping up with the rest of the world?
Difficult to say, but I think there is one thing that are against us, and that is we have two small markets. And that's why I'm calling for us to have a pan-European licenses regarding telecom licenses on the 700 band, for example, because we are not only dealing with the economy of scale, we're dealing with the innovation of scale. And if we could use the 500 million people living in Europe as a truly European market, then a lot of the innovations would take place in Europe. If not, they will take place somewhere else. And now I'm talking not only about the devices, which of obvious reasons would be supported by increased interoperability, but even more the development of all services which are a part of the economy and the competitiveness.
So pan-European spectrum license, essentially create a truly pan-European market, is your vision?
That would force through a big change in the European economy as such. That would create a real digital agenda, that would create a real digital internal market, which would change the logic of the internal market as such. It is the reformer of Europe.
And my other passion about this is that the other people we really have to get on board here are public authorities. Because there are fantastic opportunities to reform public service by using this technology. And some municipalities are advanced. We have great smart city things here as well. But the problem is that it's all very well bringing local politicians to talk about smart cities, but there are big issues about how they move that forward. Now, I'm a great believer in using the power of the public purse to encourage innovative companies.
Sort of seed innovation, is it?
Yes, exactly. But you need to change the whole culture of public procurement in those authorities. That part of their work has to be seen to be advancing those ideas, which means that they have to become more risk adverse in those areas, because local municipalities are not necessarily very risk taking. I think where we are in Barcelona, they've been much more innovative than in most other cities in Europe. But that's a culture we need to spread. Now, again, this needs leadership from a prime ministerial level downwards about making economies much more entrepreneurial.
So there's a real demand, and in the next few weeks we'll be launching in the UK a thing called Digital Business First, where for the first time from the demand side, from the businesses, and this is where I think we're still very much in our infancy because the digital business is just such a young one. There's much bigger priorities going into investment in rail, in roads, in aircraft. And yet if you look at any studies which come from the ICT industry that I've seen it, for every pound that you get, you're going to get 20 back in terms of ICT. In rail investment, you get every 2 back. But governments don't seem to recognize that actually it's the priorities of digital infrastructure we need to go for. In the recent weeks, we've seen ministers, prime ministers in the European Union putting monies, slightly less monies over the 7-year period, getting rid of the Connecting Europe facility because, not entirely, but pruning it back for traditional funding in agriculture and stuff. So one senses here that the digital industry is not yet sufficiently shaped to be able to influence effectively this thing, which to me should be the top priority is for digital infrastructure.
These interviews underline the pivotal role that mobile connectivity is playing in the wider economy and the importance of the telecoms industry to Europe's future. For more information, please visit www.gsma.com/GSMA Europe.